What is going on, everybody? Welcome back to Motorfest, and in this video I will be going over the best way to level up the Dragster class here in the game. So obviously guys, a lot of the classes here are going to take a while to actually get maxed out parts for, and that's most likely going to come down to how the RNG in this game is, at least at the moment. But one of the main issues with the Dragster class is the fact that there is not going to be that many races you can actually do with them, so you are most likely going to be farming and or grinding the exact same races to get these said part sets for them. So if you guys are wondering, I was actually running this exact same build until I actually got my Nitro Chemist set for it. So I am running a few of the Loot Digger parts, but the biggest thing here is to definitely have Goldfinger and or Lucky on every single gold part that you have. Even though I would say the Lucky perk at the moment is probably not working as it really should be and or as intended, so hopefully a quick fix and or something is going to roll out into the future that is at least going to make these perks that much more viable. But if you guys are wondering, by the way, getting Lucky and or Goldfinger on every single part is luckily not going to be very expensive to do, so it's only 150 spare parts and or 1500 bucks, and luckily it's not going to go up like it was in the Crew 2, so that is obviously going to be a big plus. But I have to recommend something though, guys. I obviously do not have a Loot Digger set for the Drag class at the moment, which I would say is most likely going to come down to some terrible RNG. But if you guys actually do get a Loot Digger part for any of these said things like a gearbox and or like a brake part, make sure you guys actually throw on that Loot Digger part because it's honestly worth it. And one thing I have been trying to do though is basically throwing on other excess parts on different vehicles to actually keep track of them. So for example, here I am obviously going after a score breaker set for a drag car, which I would say is going to be almost useless for that matter. But hey, we definitely have to test out weird part builds in the future though, guys, to really see if they are going to be worth running and or if you actually have to farm for them. But I would most likely guess, guys, with the way the RNG in this game currently is, you are most likely going to get many part builds and or sets you most likely don't need. Now, I would say, guys, the biggest issue with the drag class is probably going to be the lack of events you can actually do to level them up and or really go after the said parts that you actually want. So, for example, with a hypercar, you could obviously switch between most of the events, even with like an Alpha GP and or like a racing car where you can basically go through all of them and or have a big variety of different events you can grind. But the other ways you can probably get parts for them is to probably do like many of the random speed traps around the map and or grab many of the live reward crates that obviously do spawn randomly. But even then, guys, you are still going to take a long time to actually get them maxed out and or go after many of the part sets you actually want. Now, I would say, guys, they really do need to add more of these drag events into this game, basically all around the map and or in different places, so that way you don't actually have to grind out two different events for basically 5+ hours on end to actually get the part builds you want. But the first one's going to be here on the bottom of the Oahu airport. Now, I have to admit, guys, at least compared to the Crew 2, there was a lot more drag events to actually do in that game compared to this one, so do be prepared to basically go back and forth on the couple of events that are in this game. And I would say the biggest thing is probably going to be the amount of parts you actually get. So, for example, I obviously do not have a Loot Digger set for the drag car, and I still managed to get a Nitro Chemist set for my drag cars, guys, even grinding all of that time without a Loot Digger, so it is definitely going to be possible to do so. I have to admit, though, definitely be prepared to be here for a while. I think it took me like 6 hours. Yes, that actually is going to be an insane amount of time of doing like the exact same two events, so I would say it's probably going to be on the frustrating side. But the biggest thing here is you can obviously come back to this class afterwards, even if you do get kind of like grinded out and or a bit frustrated, because, well, that is most likely going to happen without a doubt in my mind. But if you are wondering, guys, the second event you can also grind out is going to be here in the central part of the map. Vegas Strip is probably going to be one of the other better events you can do if you want, but I have to admit, guys, they are basically going to be the exact same thing. You can basically alternate from like the Vegas Strip back to like the Oahu airport. Do keep in mind, guys, if you are wondering, both events give you the exact same parts every time, so if you are hoping one actually gives you extra parts and or more than the other, unfortunately, that's not going to happen. I do want to mention, by the way, guys, without a Loot Digger set, you maybe get 2 to 4 parts from each event, so regardless, you are most likely going to be grinding out the drag class for a while. I do believe it took me an insanely long time of around over 4 hours to actually get, and that was without a Loot Digger, so who knows, maybe you might have better luck than I did. But from what I am currently seeing right now, even running a loot digger with Goldfinger and or lucky perks doesn't seem to really make a difference with most of the classes. Overall though guys, I would say getting the parts maxed out on the drag class is by far going to take a while. Of course only getting maybe 2 to 4 parts every single time without a loot digger. So I do want to mention by the way guys, head over to your legend points in the menu and or go over to the gameplay tab on the right here. Head down to the perk that does say cluster. Now at first I really did not think much about this one, but you are most likely going to be grinding out the drag race events for a while. So it will definitely be pretty helpful having this perk active, but if you guys have any questions at all, let me know in the comments below. And as always, don't forget to hit that like button and subscribe for more insight.